But switching gears on that, I want to talk about this movie 13 Lives, which I don't know that I've even talked to anybody who's seen it yet.
I've been avoiding this movie.
You've been
Quite
avoiding
frankly.
this movie?
Yeah, not in a bad way. It's just this the subject matter. I tried watching the documentary that this movie's based on, and I had a hard time getting through it just because of the tension and the anxiety of the story itself. Real people put in, a life threatening situation, and with no guarantee that they're going to survive.
Yeah, so 13 Lives is currently on Prime Video, and it's about a group of kids in Thailand that go like they're about to celebrate a birthday, they're playing soccer, they're having fun, and their coach takes all these kids and they're like, oh, we want to check out the caves. They go into this cave, and in the midst of their visit into the cave floods. There's some rain, the cave floods, and they are trapped at the very end of this chasm. And it's a true story. You probably heard about it in the news, but you heard about that. Oh, these were kids were trapped in the cave and they were rescued. The real story behind it is harrowing. I found it difficult. I watched it really late at night, like, oh, let's check it out. Midnight, right? I turned on this movie that ends up being 2.5 hours, riveted, couldn't get to sleep. If you are claustrophobic, this movie is going to there. I mean, like, I don't think there should be trigger warnings on movies, but I will say this: if you are claustrophobic, like that movie, if you saw that movie Buried with Ryan Reynolds, that movie I found difficult to watch. And if you are claustrophobic, 13 Lives is going to also be difficult for you to watch. So it's takes that true story and tells you how they accomplished this rescue. And even though you know what happens at the end, you don't know how they pulled this off. And the actors Viggo Mortensen, Colin, Farrell, and Joel Edgerton play these cave divers that are professional cave divers that have assessed it and like, oh no, those kids are going to die. There's no way to get them out because they have to go through this. And what I really love what Ron Howard, the director of the movie, does in this film is he shows you like a map of like where they are and how you've got to go through this like narrow space through the cave that's like, is it 2 kilometers? It's like 2 kilometers and takes 6 hours. So you've got your oxygen tank, you've got 6 hours to go all the way through, and then you go to the part where all the kids are, just at least for the moment, safely encased, but there's no way. How do you get them 2 kilometers all the way back when some of the narrow parts of the cave you can barely traverse?
Yeah.
I found it so like, I may be claustrophobic in some way. Not necessarily in real life, but like when I watch a movie that's like this, like I will never go cave diving. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. I'm not an adventure sports guy, oddly enough. Okay. My idea of roughing it is staying at a Courtyard Marriott, right? That's rough for me. I'm not a big guy. I'm going camping. I just, even though
I call it unforced errors. There are things you do in your life that could get you killed. And what is the reason you do it? If you get killed, that's what we call the unforced error. You did something stupid that you had you didn't have to do it.
Exactly.
And cave diving is one of those things.
Exactly. Like when I found out I was born with one kidney, so I only have one kidney, and my doctor was like, well, one thing, you can't donate a kidney. And second thing, he said I wouldn't go skydiving and I would avoid contact sports. And I'm like, avoiding contact sports? Done. Not going to do that. Easy. But this film really captures like what it was like. And Viggo, Colin Farrell, and Joel Edgerton, great actors. They play these real life cave divers who helped rescue these kids, but they had to come up with this ingenious way to get them out of the cave. I'm not going to ruin it. Because it's so like they lay out like, no, these kids are going to die. There's no way. This is not possible to do. And they figure out some way to make it happen. And it's like gripping right up until the very end. Like what's weird is I think 13 Lives is one of the best movies I've seen this year, and it's on freaking Prime Video. And I'm looking at this going, why was this not released in theaters? Why was this film not released in theaters?
Well,
And
I think there's an expectation of the box office you have to do in order to appear in a theater. And I think that's why a lot of these, I mean, you're not, you know, the only thing coming to theaters are the big blockbuster action movies, and a dramatic story like this, one that does create anxiety. It's not something, you know, I don't think the studios feel like it's strong enough to draw an audience big enough.
Well, that's disappointing. You know, like I was talking to someone on Twitter about this who mentioned the movie 13 Lives. And I said, yeah, it's just the wrong kind of superheroes, right? Like it's not superheroes with capes. It's like, these are real life guys who like did this. Like,
and they are putting their lives on the line in order to save these kids as well. You know, it's, you know, I think that's the biggest thing is not only was it dangerous, it was not easy. And then the kids had to be taught how to scuba dive instantly in order for them to survive.
Yeah, that's not a thing that's teachable with these kids that are weakened from spending, you know, I don't know, they were in the cave for like 2 weeks.
Like 2 days maybe at that point.
What's that? Well, at that point they had not eaten food. They were just sitting in that cave in the dark because they didn't have flashlights, and their coach taught them like meditation, like how to just meditate and calm yourself so that you're not, and there's also limited air in there as well, right? Like it was crazy. And they had to like, it was interesting because it wasn't just like the fact that they were caught in the cave. It was raining and they had to like redirect. They did this thing where they basically flooded these fields and destroyed all these farmers' crops by redirecting the water over the mountain, which was like a sacrifice that they had to make. It's like, okay, if these kids have a chance to survive, water can't continue to pour in through the top. So they redirected the water down the hill. Like, Alan, I can't recommend this movie enough. It's one of my favorites of this year, but I wish I'd seen it in a theater. But the fact that I saw it like I started watching it at midnight, and then by the end, I'm like, oh, I can't fall asleep now. I'm kind of freaked out because when they really illustrate very well, like what was at stake, why it was impossible, like the sense of claustrophobia. You're in the dark in a wet cave, you haven't eaten, and you're sitting there. Now they get the kids food, they kind of get them ready to attempt a rescue, but they were like, yeah, we're going to be pulling. It's interesting because they pull all the media out. They're like, because like, well, we may be pulling out dead bodies. Like, we don't know how this is going to work. Right. So even if you know the story, I don't want to tell you like how this rescue is pulled off. I'll just say, can't recommend this movie enough. And why was this movie not in theaters? And Samaritan, even like, okay, Samaritan is getting a mixed review. It's just okay. But like, that could have just been released in theaters. It's weird because like in the last month, I've seen Jaws, E.T., and Back to the Future in a theater. Okay. And they're releasing in anticipation of the Rings of Power. They're re-releasing Lord of the Rings, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's actually, I think it's playing at the Frida Cinema. Like one movie a day, or is it like, are they doing all in one?
It's one movie a day. And I believe that the extended editions too.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. I love that they're doing that. And well, I mean, also it's going to stand in contrast to like whatever this Rings of Power.
It's going to put to shame. It's, you would think Amazon would prevent these screenings from going on before their show goes online.
I think this is going to be a big rivalry between, you've got Warner Brothers, which has, you know, the original Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings, right? And they've come out with House of the Dragon, which we can I'd like to talk about for a little bit. But let's go to our chat questions here and see what people are saying. Holy cow, we've got some super chats here. Let me get to these super chats. Got a lot of George, I owe you a phone call, George Molo. I owe you a phone call. I literally texted myself, call George. So watched it. And George Molo says for $9.99, thank you for that. Watched it and loved the movie. 13 Lives is phenomenal. Thank you again, Chris, for opening so many new worlds for us to explore. Yeah, like, look, I love when it's good. I love your superhero big budget spectacle stuff. I love it when it's good. It's less often now that it's good these days, but I take solace in the fact that like there are other things out there to see. like a 13 Lives, or you've got options like Samaritan. You know, your mileage may vary on that one. But thank you, George, for that. That's great.
Here's the
George,
other thing about 13 Lives is, no, I'll just say that the publicity on this has been horrible. And, the only reason I remembered it was on Prime is because you just brought it up now. But,
right.
It's like I've not heard anything about this movie except for maybe someone talking about it one time.
I want to say thank you to George for the $49.99. $49.99. You know what we gotta celebrate with something for $49.99. There's gotta be something, some video that we can show to show our appreciation. I don't even know what videos we can show these days because we've been getting dinged a lot lately with like copyright stuff. Our
anything with music, anything with music.
And the other thing is, when we first launched the channel, we were like, we weren't doing any content. We just like, well, let's have a film threat channel. What should we do? Well, we'll post independent film trailers. And a lot of the trailers that we posted in like 2017, 2018, 2019, we're all getting like which I don't care. We actually don't monetize our movie trailers. If you see trailers in front of the movies, we didn't put them there. We don't monetize trailers because we don't technically own it, but it's a commercial. It's a piece of advertising. So we do post trailers for indie movies, but those can get claimed by the copyright holder, not us. And that's not a strike. That's just them saying, hey, we own this, but we appreciate you opening it up to our audience. So we will post trailers for indie films. But now a bunch of them are getting claimed. Like we got our first copyright strike from a trailer for an Indian movie that we posted in 2018. So we're on high alert here with this strike, but I want to say to George, thank you again. All hail fans being vindicated. New reviews, trashing rings, love Film Threat. Always enjoy listening and learning from you both. All hail Chris and Alan. Well, thank you, George, for that. And I owe you a phone call. It's on. I literally texted myself, call George, because we got stuff to talk about. Although I have been locked at Bobby Schwartz's place in Riverside, California for days. Literally obsessing over you could cut 5 seconds of that. You could slide the audio. This is like what we're trying to do is just build up the energy of the documentary. And part of how we're doing that is you cut 5 seconds, you trim here, you trim here. We're doing what they call the fine cut. So for anyone fine cut, and you're taking the audio for a scene that's about to come on, slides into the last 2 seconds of the shot before, and it has the cumulative effect of making the movie go like that, just picking up the pacing. So that was something that when we did our test screening at San Diego Comic-Con, I was like, we really gotta we just gotta tighten. We gotta chop 5 minutes out of this, but there's not much story we can lose. And God, Bobby Schwartz, man. We're already talking about what's the next movie we're going to make, but we don't want to make an archival documentary because can I just say those are difficult. Archival docs are crazy.
I think part of the problem is you're in Riverside at this time of the year.
Oh, it was 105 degrees and he lives right by an airport. So there's planes constantly taking off. Oh, we had fun. I mean,
105 is not that bad. For Riverside.
It wasn't that bad, but no, we've been having fun. I mean, I think that I can't work with anyone who doesn't have a good sense of humor, and that's what I appreciate. I rarely say anything nice about Alan in front of Alan. I'll do it behind his back all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be working with Alan. But Alan has a great sense of humor. I know this mainly because I've seen you do, improv comedy. And just I don't know, you have I can't work with people that don't have a good sense of humor about themselves. So that's the last nice thing I'm ever going to say. It'll never enjoy it. I'm never going to say anything nice about Alan ever again.
I question whether you have a drinking problem right now, or have you been drinking too much lately? Have you?
What, me? Water?
I know. In all reality, this is actually the second compliment you've given me within 24 hours. So.
but the other one wasn't public.
I know.
Private.
That's what I'm saying is the frequency is ramping up here.
All
You have
right.
to
Well,
pull it back.
okay. All right. Thank you, Alan, for pointing this out. I will now end it.
I know. I'm a masochist.
Okay.
I love abuse.
George, again, I really enjoyed Samaritan. See, George Molo for 1999. Thank you for that, George. We appreciate it. Yeah, I feel like it's also like because there's like not a lot of stuff out there, and I just actually like Stallone. I mean, think of the characters that he's created.
Yeah, I mean, you like Stallone in this movie. He gives a really good performance. It's not a Rocky performance, but it's a good performance.
I met him once. He was the nicest guy. He's sort of like, he's just used to it. It's just like, oh yeah, you want to, and it's just like, hey, can I get a picture? I did get a picture with him. And what did he do? He went like this with his fist. He made a fist like right up to my face. And then I realized he does that pose in every photo. If you look up photos of like Sylvester Stallone, just sort of candid, like him taking pictures with people, he always does the fist right up to your face. It's pretty funny.
I've always found him to be a thoughtful man too, in terms of interviews and even the nature of Rocky, the movie itself. It's a very thoughtful movie.
And dang, another $50 super chat. Holy crap.
Thank you.
Jamin D, Alan, Chris, sending your Disney share that they asked me to pass on because they found out. I also enjoyed 2 episodes so far. I love you guys. Wow. Oh, well, thank you for that. You're talking about She-Hulk. Look, here's what I'll say is why. Let me explain why I'm enjoying She-Hulk, okay? To go off just for a quick sec, is that I always loved that character in the Fantastic Four comics. Okay, I didn't read the other runs. I'm aware of her origin, but like I never read that run of her with the mafia and whatnot. I just didn't read it. I was like, oh, She-Hulk, she's replacing the Thing. I was all obsessed with the Fantastic Four, and what I like about her as a character is, and this stands in contrast to all the other female characters that they've introduced in the Marvel Disney Plus universe. Okay. They're all perfect and the bestest ever. And what I like about Tatiana Maslany, how she's approached these characters, she's flawed. She doesn't win all the time. She has a boss who's kind of a jerk. She has coworkers that she has to like struggle with. She has things in life that she has to struggle with. Her family, she doesn't have the perfect life, and she's not the bestest ever. She's a flawed character. And I talked about this I've talked about this a couple times actually, and I'm sure, feel free to call me a sexist when I say this, but one of the big critiques of She-Hulk is that she has this sort of list of complaints, and people are attacking like the complaints that she's making. I'm just like, I just sit here and I go, wait, have you ever met a woman that didn't complain at some point about things? Like complain? Yes, I know. I have lost half the audience, and by half I mean maybe 5%. But like complaining is kind of her superpower, right? It's like that's a superpower, and no one does it better. I feel like as men, and maybe this is a stereotype, as men, we kind of suck it up. We're just like, all right, well, life sucks. Okay, this happened. I'll go fix it. Like you just sort of do that shit, you know? And I feel like, you know, I don't know. Is this a sexist statement? Type yes if yes. But it's also like, I don't expect her to be perfect or the best at the beginning. I expect her to have a character arc. And I feel what they may be doing is setting up a character arc. The problem is, and go watch Call Me Chato, Chato. Go watch Paul Chato's channel. He's done a couple of videos. He did a great video about man babies, which I thought was fantastic. Then he's done a couple of videos about She-Hulk and also kind of explaining sitcom format. The problem with sitcom format is this, is no one grows or changes. Everyone at the end ends up always the same as where they began. Where people changes in movies. So it's possible that they're setting her up. It's like, yeah, she's kind of, you know, she's flawed, right? She's flawed like real people are. And I would hope that they would have her character, Jennifer Walters, have her change and grow in the arc of her character. We saw Bruce Banner, the Hulk, have an arc through different movies. Changes happen to him. I'd like to see changes with She-Hulk, how she looks at the world. Maybe I need to look at things differently. Maybe I need to be more empathetic to my cousin because she's not very empathetic towards Bruce.
Yeah.
I agree. Like, so when I hear people criticize it, what the criticisms are, I'm like, oh, I agree with those criticisms. And are they setting her up to be as a character that will go through an arc? Like Tony Stark starts out as a selfish asshole, and he ends up being a selfless person who saves the world and the universe.
I mean, the arc here is essentially she's trying to come to grips with her new superpowers and take advantage of that. She's more or less being forced to take advantage of that in her new job as the lawyer for superheroes, when she really just wants to be a lawyer. You know, and I think this is the problem that the Disney Plus shows have been having, is that their characters aren't imperfect, and they don't have that arc, which this one has. You know, you're gonna see her being challenged herself, her character, and I think that's the most refreshing thing about this, and I think that's why it stands out amongst the other Disney Plus shows. Ms. Marvel, she didn't have a struggle of any. Her struggle was she was different. You know, she was Muslim, and but her character never changed throughout the entire series, except she got superpowers.
And that's uninteresting. It's so uninteresting to see perfect. That's why I think Captain Marvel might be the worst character. I mean, to me, the worst character in the Marvel universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, and in particular, Brie Larson playing that character, I just found incredibly unlikable, unrelatable, like just nowhere to go. Whereas at least I feel like with how they've begun, right? We're 2 episodes in. You and I have seen the next 2 episodes, which I can't wait to hear the reaction.
Okay, hey, Madison alone.
Madison. When you meet Madison, she's like this, a word you don't hear very often. She's a floozy. She's a floozy party girl. She's hanging out with wongers.
And a supposed woke show has a character like this.
It's crazy that this you can't, after the introduction of Madison spelled like, well, you'll see the character. Is she in this episode or the 4th one?
She's in both.
That's right. She's in both.
Because this one sets up, it's basically the Wong storyline.
But look, I want to see more well-rounded female characters. And you know what? They may end up being unlikable at the start. But I would expect like on that journey to, like, you know, them coming to some self-realization, as Tony Stark was allowed to do. And as, you know, I mean, I think now, like, Marvel's just like, when it comes to like I really think they just should have stopped after Endgame, like just stop. But it's a corporation. They're not going to stop. They're going to milk it to death. But this is, like I say, it's the first Disney Plus show I've enjoyed. But hey, we've got like 200.
Yeah, keep going. We got lots of comments.
269 people watching. It's going up. It's going up.
Oh, wow.
So slap that like button. I mean, no, hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Let me get through these. We got a lot of comments here. Let me get through these. CD Stein 69, who's a member. Thank you for that. Later today, giving away 10. I have 10 codes to give away. Okay, so 10 codes. They're just going to go up, and it's basically going to be the first person to just use that code. So just go. You'll see all the information will be in the graphic that I'm going to post. I'm just going to post the codes, and then first come, first serve. CD Stein 69 says it's wild to see these movies that we've seen happen, even though we know they've taken liberties with the true stories. Amazing that they were able to save these kids. Talking about 13 Lives. Yeah, it's fantastic. Dempsey, a bunch of kids. Were they very good child actors? Says Dempsey. I will say this. The teeth on all the child actors were great. All the child actors' teeth had great teeth.
Yeah, so Thailand has a good dental program for children.
Dentistry in Thailand must be at a pinnacle. But it's no, look, that was my complaint about first of all, I thought the actress who played Princess Leia in the Kenobi show, I didn't think she was a very good actress. And then she had bad teeth. She's supposed to be British? What's going on?
I will say the script didn't help her out either.
I'm doing good this show. This show I've insulted all women, the British,
little girls.
There we go. But I will say this, and we're going to talk about House of the Dragon in a minute. We're going to go through these, and then we're going to go through these chat comments, and then we're going to talk about House of the Dragon. I thought that the younger actors in House of the Dragon were fantastic. They're very believable. So let's keep going through these. Patrick Lemire is here. 13 Lives is the kind of movie Amazon Prime will cut when ROP eats production budget. It's unfortunately, yeah. So yeah, it's unfortunate because that's kind of the thing that streaming does well, is a film like this. It's just disheartening. Like, why didn't this movie get a theatrical release? At least like what is Netflix is putting out a couple of films in theaters and on streaming like a month later. There's a couple of movies they're coming out with.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a while.
Yeah,
especially award season. Definitely an award season.
218 per wiki. 13 Lives was supposed to be theatrical in April, then postponed to November after positive test screenings, but moved to Prime after Amazon bought MGM. That's weird. Thank you, 218, for looking at Wikipedia. Hint, hint, Alan. You could have done that.
I could have, but I didn't.
Okay, George Molo. George is going to the free screening tonight for Rings of No Profit. Yeah, I was joking around with might have been Gary from Nerdrotic or Az saying that like the movie is going to be the lowest grossing film at the box office. 0. It's going to be 0 because they're charging nothing.
No, I mean,
the
success of Ring of Powers financially will be increased subscriptions for Amazon Prime, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
That's the only reason they're doing this is to increase subscriptions, and the buzz before it, which has been horrible, is not attracting people to this property.
No. Scary Gary, Alan's blank face combined with videos crack me up every time. The Tomb of Dracula, Samaritan is the best Stallone film since Cobra. That's a resounding endorsement.
Creed. I mean,
Patrick Lemire, who's a member, thank you for that. It's such a weird thing. You are driving audience to movies and getting a strike for your trouble. Yeah, like
I know.
We showed a trailer for RRR once, and we got a strike for that. It's crazy. Alan love emoji. When Dempsey, it's coming. There's a new emoji coming. Thanks to Glinuccio. We have a new emoji coming, which is, I think, the Alan nipple emoji. It is coming. John Witchboy, Alan Improv comedy video needs to happen.
Yeah.
Did they let you film at the place?
No, I mean, okay, so if you're familiar with the improv world, we're actually a legitimate theater, meaning, you know, we have big audiences and we're there for the public and not for other improv performers. And so as a result, we do not film the shows. So,
there you
but
go.
Not to say you can't sneak in and video my performance.
Well, there you go.
Or pay a ticket, I should say. Yeah.
If you're curious, the National Comedy Theater, it's in San Diego. Tickets are reasonably priced. And are you there every weekend, Alan? Or
no, I'll actually be there on Saturday. And then
this Saturday.
Yeah, and then every other week until the 1st of October. So I'm doing 3 shows this month.
Oh, great. I will just definitely remind people.
Yeah.
We could throw up a link to the a link to where you can get tickets. Yeah. Not the Batman. Stallone is also a pretty underrated writer. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. He doesn't people think he's the character that he is on screen, and that's not him. It's funny because he wrote a movie about a character, the first Rocky, wrote a movie about a character who basically is just striving for respect. And I still feel Stallone has never been respected in the industry. But when you look at the box office, you look at the franchises he's created, so never given enough credit.